It's my pleasure to introduce our very next speaker, architect Ritu Deshmukh, academician from Bharati Vidyapeeth College of Architecture, Navi Mumbai.
Good day to all. Let me introduce myself. I'm architect Ritu Deshmukh, currently professor at Bharati Vidyapeeth College of Architecture, Navi Mumbai. I have been invited to be a speaker at the Icon Best 2021 International Conference being organized by the School of Architecture and Interior Design, SRM Institute of Science and Technology in Chennai, Tamil Nadu. And I would like to thank the Dean of this college, Dr. P. Satish Kumar, the conveners, Architect Pradeepa and Architect Shantipriya, for organizing this conference and inviting me to such a August gathering. I would like to also mention that the topics which have been highlighted in the objectives and the preview which I saw on the poster make sense in the current scenario that we are facing. And I would be, as a presenter, talking about the new trends in the area of global entrepreneurship and innovation through learning from Indian cities. So my topic basically is kind of addressing the pedagogical issues in architectural education and how we can bridge the gap between the real world and the academia. So that would be something which I would be presenting. Once again, I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me and making me part of this particular event. So this is a topic which is very close to my heart because I have been doing this study of many traditional Indian cities since the past almost more than a decade. And we have been trying as academicians, as professionals, to make this particular environment a better place to live and habitate. The recent pandemic is a cause to worry more and to think about the new directions in the way we want to take ahead the architectural education as well as the uh, sustainable built environment that we want to create for the future generations. So I would just mention that I have taken this topic under the theme cities, neighborhood and built environment. And the title goes as learning from Indian cities, creating a pedagogy for inclusive and sustainable built environment. Just a brief about myself again. So we have been, as an educationist and academician, I have been collaborating in my institute with a lot of foreign universities and trying to develop a different pedagogy of teaching learning process for architectural students. We are also trying to build platforms and opportunities for students of architecture by giving them some platforms like the one which you also have built up, that is international conference. Our conference is named as Mosaic, so we have already done 3 editions of that. And we also kind of try to align with the vision of the Sanstha, which is believing in social transformation through dynamic education. And in this particular mode of working, we try to create engaging studios, which are vertical studios, engaging the NGOs, administrative offices, architects from practice, faculty, and students into research and proposal of real time issues like sustainable transport, wetlands of Navi Mumbai, dry and wet waste management. And this particular initiative that we had done in 2015-16 is known as ReCity. Then we also try to create some engagements for faculty and students in the public realm by working with NGOs like Rotary Foundation and Anukriti, which is another NGO based in Mumbai, to create, design, and develop some meaningful solutions and interventions in public realm. So, as I mentioned earlier as well, my presentation throws light on the importance of sustainable living and the need to address it by learning through our traditional Indian cities and applying this information to the UN Sustainable Goals. This presentation also tries to explore the ways of creating pedagogy, of sensitizing the future generation about inclusivity and sustainability through various initiatives taken during my academic and professional career. So the format of presentation will be the inquiry into the trends of architectural education today, what is the need and what are the objectives of learning and developing a pedagogy based on the findings of studies which we have carried out. Some case examples I would like to show about inclusiveness and sustainable issues in Indian cities. And some examples I would also like to share from some interventions done in Paris and France. And the next topic would be the takeaways for shaping a sustainable or inclusive built environment. And last but not the least, the ideas for path ahead. So as you know that India is urbanizing rapidly, so can an equitable growth be sustained? So what is that equitable growth? What how do we have to provide cities that have the capability of providing something for everybody only because and only when they are created by everybody? This is what Jane Jacobs said, and I totally agree with this kind of a format that she had propagated at one point of time. So, building cities which are for the people and by the people is something which we should, as architects, think about. That is what inclusivity is, that is what sustainability is. Now, what is happening in terms of architectural education and profession? So, you can see the historical graph which has been created by researcher Zolanda Morkel, uh, Department of Architectural Technology in Cape Peninsula University of Technology. So here, what is the point which I'm trying to make is that in the earlier phases, during history, the earlier you could say the River Valley civilizations up to the Renaissance period, it was all about apprenticeship. So architecture as a profession was mostly through apprenticeship. That is, a guide or a guru would teach the disciples about the trade. And then during the Middle Ages and the Renaissance period, this trade guild moved towards academia. And from 1793, you had schools or Academia Royale where they used to teach architecture or arts or other such subjects, and move from craftsman to philosopher and move from office to studio. So all this is happening during the 1900s, or you could say the industrial revolution saw this happening. And now from 1958 to 2012 we have moved to an era which is more driven by technology, and it talks about collaborative efforts, new professional approach, and multidisciplinary approach. So we are talking about a lot of terminologies which are kind of bridging the gap between education and profession. And these are the some trends in architectural education which you can see here. So what is this 21st century learning? So we have examples which are learner centered, which are data rich, which are transferred by design, which are adaptable, which are personalized. So all of this is seen in the studios, in the environment that we are creating in our academic curriculum. So here we also have this post the pandemic situation, we have this particular thing that earlier when we had the studio and the critique, so it was a physical activity where you had the uh, a person defending his or her design, and you had a critique who was trying to understand the positives and negatives of the design. This has moved in the pandemic period to a technology mediated learning conversation. Now you would all question as to where this is leading in terms of understanding inclusive or sustainable cities. Now, this is broadly what the education system in India encompasses. So, you have the core as architectural design, and there are supporting subjects, and these supporting subjects are governed by issues related to local aspects, materials, skills, theory of design, and these basically connect to the uh, broader objectives like the national priorities. What are the national priorities? What are the fundamental priorities? And what is the international awareness we want to create through our education system and through the professional grooming that we're giving to architects and the faculty expertise available at such academic institutions. So here, these are the kind of methods that are adopted generally. So you have the participatory method and you have the passive teaching method, in which you are mostly demonstrating and then promoting a kind of dialogue in this. Again, it brings me to this question that why do we need to study or teach architecture or how to build our habitable environment? What is inclusive or sustainable built environment? Schools of architecture majorly are engaging in a hypothetical situation and tackling problem solving in the case closed studio. So these are all the questions which I have just listed out. Earlier, architects used to be respected and consulted for their profound knowledge of their field. Today, are we a second fiddle to the political and capitalist needs? And what does inclusiveness and dignity for all mean to us as a society, as a kind of habitable, or you can say the people who are inhabiting Earth? So now we talk about a bigger question, and in that framework, we will try to understand how this particular approach that I have taken can help in uh, kind of bridging that gap of inclusivity and sustainable issues can be handled and tackled in a better manner. So we have to carry out a shift in the approach. And I believe in this particular idiom or statement, which was given by Socrates, and I quote, I cannot teach anybody anything, I can only make them think. So this entire approach of taking up this particular exercises through the academic institutions is only to make the students or the future professionals think about what kind of built environment do they want to create for themselves in the next 50 years or next 100 years. So this is the kind of gamut of imagery that you see in the traditional Indian cities, and all of this we have been learning and understanding since childhood. We have been part of this system, we have been part of the knowledge systems which are traditionally handed over to us by generations. And in this, we made a small attempt of trying to document these various traditional Indian cities. So we have almost done 10 to 11 Indian cities in which we have tried to understand how we can contribute as a professional and as an academician to sensitize students towards their real issues on ground. So this is the first approach, first you could say example that I am sharing with you, which was done with a builder in Navi Mumbai. So this is a famous builder group which had approached us as academic partners. So we were doing a joint studio with the School of Architecture, School of Urban Design in Hong Kong, and the students from there had flown in to give possible design ideas about this township, which is a 500-acre township sprawling in the Navi Mumbai Naina region. So here the whole approach which was taken was more of understanding the site, giving sustainable solutions, giving a new kind of language to the built environment that is created. And this approach, why I'm trying to highlight over here is because this is a kind of approach which created some kind of a dialogue between what people want and what profitability can the builder achieve through creating an intermediary approach towards building this gap between academia and profession. The other examples are more academic oriented, but they are also giving certain other solutions. So this is a study in Udaipur which we had carried out, which has uh, hundreds of years of history, and it has these. So we had tried to address two issues over here. One was tourism in a local interface. So, how do you create possibilities of tourism in this area, the old area of Udaipur, which does not have many tourists coming in to see the old area? The tourists basically concentrate on the historic or the monumental structures. So, this was a kind of attempt which was created to make a kind of dent into that particular aspect. And the other effort that we had taken was to curate certain heritage walks or touristic walks which were aligned to particular issues. So there were, like this particular example is talking about in search of quiet places in Udaipur. So people who are interested in traveling or exploring the old city core of Udaipur can take this particular walk and only have pause areas and areas which will have certain other elements or characters which are not part of the monumental city. So all these examples I'm trying to show you now here. This is the kind of intervention which the students had proposed. Now here you can see that it's a very, very nominal or minimal approach to making a kind of difference to the habitable space of the people there. So the idea was to sensitize the students to understand that inclusivity or sustainability is not achieved only by demolishing and building new. You can also do this by inclusive approach of understanding what the people there want and giving an intervention which will help in their habitable space and improving their quality of life. Now, this is another example of Kerala, which is the city of Alleppey, which is best known as the backwater city. So here we were trying to understand the backwater systems, and we were trying to compare this particular backwater system to Quilon or Kollam, which has lost its backwater system. And so there was a there was a thought in which when we had gone to this place from the government side to connect Alleppey with Kulon or Kollam through backwaters. So that was something we were trying to explore and come up with ideas about how to understand this backwater system, what is happening to the people who are living along this backwater system, and what are the changes they are facing. So all this is again a part of learning from the Indian cities and trying to explore new landscapes, new engagements, and coming up with solutions which are very, very nominal, but which make a lot of difference to the people out there. So these are some of the solutions which were given. This is the third city which I am sharing with you, which has again a historical background, the Banaras. So here we had done the study of the ghats, the neighborhoods, and the crafts or the skill of this city of Banaras, the old city of Banaras. And as you are aware that it is also declared as a smart city. So now all this aspect of people and the kind of engagements they are having currently is sort of kept aside, and there is overlaying of the smart city concepts on the traditional city. So there is a huge confusion and a huge gap about what is the sustainable solution to this, what is the kind of inclusiveness that we are looking at when we are trying to impose such ideas onto our built environment. So can there be a way of being sensitive to the requirements of the people? So just one example I would like to share with you, which is the example of this aspect of tourism, which is like you might be aware that Banaras is very, very renowned for the religious tourism, especially on the ghats of Banaras and the Kashi Vishwanath temple, which is there, which has a huge history. So all this is part of the uh, uh, reason why Banaras is known for why it is Banaras. So this is the second thing why people come there. That is for the moksha. It is believed that they will achieve moksha if they are buried on the Manikarnika Ghat, which is the 24-hour burning ghat in Banaras. And the third reason why people are coming there or why tourists are coming is the water supply or the water body, that is Ganges, which is considered to be very sacred and very revered in our uh, mythology and religion. And this is the condition of the heritage over there currently, which is not well kept, which is not maintained, which has lot of things to offer, but we are currently engaging in activities such as smart city, which we are talking about as technology driven solutions to human habitation. So when we are talking of all this is one example what is happening because of the proposals which are given by the government without understanding the desires and aspirations of the people. So these are these things which are being proposed. So removal of the dhobi ghats and the cows from the city. So what impact will it have on this particular area? So all that has to be kind of understood. That is what inclusivity means, that you are not kind of throwing off things which you think are redundant, which you think are eyesore, which you think will not cater to the tourist population which is there. So this is something which many foreign tourists have shared with us, that we enjoy the way Banaras is currently, and we enjoy the way the cows are part of the ecosystem, part of the city, they are part of the way of life of people. And we also enjoy the way the dhobis are using the water bodies around and creating activities around river Ganges. Of course, when you propose certain, there are pros and cons. So when you propose something, it has to be in sync with what is sustainable. So you could always give solutions which are kind of conducive to include these marginal sectors as well. So here I would like to share with you certain proposals which have been given by the students. So this is one of the proposals which is linking the terraces uh, and promoting the skills of Banaras. So this was one of the proposals, which is very, very nominal proposal, but it makes a lot of difference to the people out there because they don't have this opportunity to shift from this area to another area. They will be a part of this old area and they will sustain in the occupation and in the habitable spaces where they are living today. The second solution or attempt of an idea was that, as I have shown you earlier, some example of the way the heritage structures are dilapidated due to either loss of maintenance or there is nobody to take care of it. So there is a proposal here by a student of recycling these heritage materials and creating a kind of pool of materials which can be reused in the old city itself. So these are again ideas which can be implemented. There is another idea about the cows and the milk which is produced in the from the cows, because Banaras is known as the milk city. So there is as I mentioned just a few seconds back, that there is a proposal that the cows have to be shifted outside the city. So when you are doing this, you are basically removing the essence of the city. So this was a proposal given by the students as to how the cows can be a part of the city, but not disturb or not hamper the touristic value of the city, and produce milk and the milk products for the city continually. So all these are examples which we have been trying to inculcate in students and bring out this particular idea that people and the place are equally important, and this idea of sustainability is also related to including people and understanding their value systems and their beliefs and their aspirations, rather than putting a blanket idea as architects that this is how we envisage the place to be. So this is another example of a study we had done in Chalai Bazar, which is in Trivandrum, wherein we were studying all the Chalai market, And then after doing the study of the market, we were trying to come up with certain solutions for this market. And these are the kind of interventions which students did on site to include the people who were doing multiple activities on the market. And this is one example of a dilapidated building which was there, and they have tried to showcase how goldsmiths work in the traditional market of Chalai Bazaar. So this is a kind of attempt that was done on site, and later on there was also attempt to propose some ideas onto the site. So these are the kind of engagements which we try to inculcate in students to create this terminology of inclusiveness. So these were all the examples of, like, there were some choreographer from France, and he had collaborated with the Kalarepayaku dancer from Kerala, and they had in the Chalai Bazaar, in the space where the students were putting these interventions, they had come up with such a performance so that there is a link between the arts and the architecture part of it. So I will just quickly move to the next part. So now this is the kind of pedagogy we were trying to develop, and then we are trying to come up with explorations from various cities of India. So these are some, again, some attempts which we had done. So this was decoding the retrospective landscape of a medieval empire in Hampi and the urbanity and occupations of Chitpur Road in Kolkata. And for your, just like to share that the documentary which was made in Hampi has received the first prize in the Second City Architecture Movie Award 2020, hosted in Vienna. So that is the kind of engagement that we would like to uh, sensitize the future generation to. Now, these are some of the examples I would like to share with you, which are examples of inclusivity and sustainability in Paris, in France, where people have used the abandoned structures and abandoned rail. This is an example of an abandoned railroad where there is no longer any railway line, and no railways are traveling from this side. So they have started to use the upper part of the railway station as a restaurant, and the lower part of the rail line is used as a recyclery. So they try to have urban farming. Then there are people from the neighborhood coming and selling their handmade products in this area. So in doing so, what is happening is the community is taking participatory approach in maintaining the property and maintaining the area and giving a vibrancy to the area. So this is the kind of built environment that we can think of, which is inclusive and which is sustainable, which is talking about a sustainable approach to developing it. This is another example of 74th Quarter Avenue, which has this old structure, and this is an area where generally you would find that a lot of skill building activities or vocational training activities are happening in this area. So they have such small exercises happening like carpentry or other skill building activities, and then the structures which are made are displayed in that area itself. So they are trying to use, like, this is the other example of Fab Lab Paris, which is trying to use the reusing materials, which are like the plastic reuse and the particle board reuse, and they are trying to use this in the public domain. So all of these are examples which are initiatives which are done to make inclusivity a part of the growth of the city, part of the sustainable built environment. So these are the kind of interventions which are done, like the organic farming center, and then there are these 3D models for the various areas created to basically try and experiment with what people will respond to and what will be the kind of nature of the material, how it will respond to various conditions of temperature, climate, weight, and all of those things. Now, this is another example of a 104, it is called, the building is called 104, and it has changed. It was an old warehouse and it has been transformed into a kind of a public space. So there are a lot of activities happening in this place, and there is no charge to come to this place. So you can do multiple activities in this space, and this center has become vibrant and it has become a part of the way of life of people around. So it's become a kind of a community center for people. So these are initiatives, learning from which we try to, as an academic institution, include such activities in our pedagogy. So we tried this particular thing of collaborating with traditional artisans and trying to make it a part of our curriculum. We tried to make this a part of our curriculum wherein our students go and engage in designing and redoing a public space or a school or a small garden for the people. So this is in public realm, which we had done with our NGO friends of Anukriti, and this was in collaboration with the Municipal Corporation of Navi Mumbai that we had come up with this. And this was at a very shoestring budget that we tried to make a difference. So this is what we are trying to say or mention about how the pedagogy can be changed, and this learning by doing can be a part of the curriculum. This is another exercise that we had undertaken to include the scrap waste which was there by hordes, by kilos with the Navi Mumbai Municipal Corporation. So they invited us to produce 4 or 5 such installations using the waste scrap. And this is also like two of this have been installed in the public realm in Navi Mumbai. So learning from this, we try to again create more awareness about design, about built environment, but for the layman or the common man. So this is an initiative we had done of Design Week in 2019, where we try to teach the children, the old, and the passerbys, the common people, something about design, something about built environment through design. So this was something we had tried to do. We also tried to include the case-based learning with lot of experts of different fields coming together to develop or sensitize the students to develop a thinking into sustainable practices. Now, this is the initiative which I would just like to explain a bit more, which is a collaboration we had done with experts, which was a vertical studio we had done, which had experts from the government, NGOs, the practicing architects, and academic faculty and students in one group. And they were addressing to 4 different ideas or 4 different things. So we had the expert related to dry and waste management. We had an expert related to the mangroves and the association of the mangroves, how we can talk about the mangroves and redesign the mangroves for the people. And then we had the Smart Commute Foundation joining us for a sustainable transport solution in Navi Mumbai. So all this activity took around 2-3 months, and after that we had the Navi Mumbai Municipal Commissioner joining us to understand what are the findings of these this thing, and then we had come up with such solutions for the various areas that we had studied. What is achieved out of this? So what is achieved is that it creates a learning from existing or age-old knowledge system. It encourages team building and building interpersonal skills. It changes the perspective of pedagogy of architectural education. It grooms you into a global professional and empowers learning globally. And the most important thing is that you go beyond textbook learning. So all this is the kind of thing which builds up your personality as an architect, and you try to become more sensitive to the environment around you, and the way you will address the built environment is going to change. So this is the kind of pedagogical approach that I would like to introduce and like to come sort of propagate through the academic institutions. Now, just as a again, we are ending the whole dialogue with a rhetoric or with some questions. Like, why do architects always have to build? Can we not plug into the societal needs and cater to an architecture of necessity? Today, architectural profession is mostly catering to the elite or select few, and we are sort of, not addressing the bigger issues or the societal issues. So inclusiveness and dignity for all can be achieved by doing ground study of the context and then responding to the development of the projects. So now we should shift our focus from making buildings to creating opportunities for impacting society. So that would be my kind of, uh, last sentence to the audience, that be the change you wish to see around you. That is what Mahatma Gandhi has said and done. So we should also think about creating such change around us, creating an inclusive and sustainable built environment for ourselves and our future generations. And post this pandemic situation, I think it is very, very imperative that we do it as soon and as fast as possible. So thank you so much. And I would like once again to thank the organizers for inviting me and allowing me to share this small idea or small thought that I had in my mind related to built environment.
Thank you, Architect Ritu Deshmukh, for an insightful presentation. We will now take a short break to play our sponsor's video and we'll move on to our next speaker.
Epoxy adhesives are widely used in the industry because of their high strength, chemical resistance, and the ability to adhere to different surfaces. But almost all of them have low impact strength and low UV resistance, which makes them weak after long-term use, under stress and limitations. To combat all these issues, we are introducing Bondtite Pro. Bondtite Pro is a high-performance two-component multi-use new generation epoxy adhesive system with room temperature curing. It has very high impact strength, excellent shear strength, better UV resistance, better coverage, and so much more. And it is to be used for bonding various similar and dissimilar materials such as metals, ceramics, wood, leather, rubber, marble, glass, and a lot of other materials. Bondtite Pro is very easy to use. The directions to use are really simple. Step 1. Clean the surface and make sure it is free of dust, unsound material, loose plaster, oil, paint, grease, algae, and corrosion deposits. Step 2. Take equal quantity of part A and part B. Step 3. Mix it for 1 minute with the help of Bondtite applicator to attain uniform color. Step 4. Apply on the surface. Step 5. Clamp or support the surface for 4 hours. It will attain full strength in 24 hours. And that's all there is to it. You can use it for speakers, marble pasting, automobile repair, and hardwood handicraft. Bondtite Pro.